3 days later, the Vextar Empire no longer existed. It had not been destroyed by bombs or weapons. It had been conquered by humans who fought with a fury that no alien species had ever seen before. Every Vextar world, every space station, every military base had fallen to human forces. The other species in the galaxy watched in stunned silence as humanity accomplished in 72 hours what no one had thought possible. The Vextar had been one of the most powerful empires in known space. Now they were prisoners on their own worlds, guarded by human soldiers. Admiral Boram stood in the command center of the former Vextar capital world. Around her, human technicians were going through Vextar computer systems, looking for information about other facilities where children might have been held. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Seok Jin, "we've found records of 17 different locations where human children were kept. The rescue teams have confirmed that all children have been recovered safely." Boram nodded. "How many children total?" 238 children, ages 6 to 15. All are alive, though many need medical treatment. The numbers made Boram angry all over again. More than 200 human children had been stolen from their families and used as slaves. But they were safe now, and that was what mattered. On Earth, the rescued children were arriving at medical centers where their families waited for them. The reunion between parents and children was broadcast across human space, reminding everyone why they had fought. Ji-ho walked slowly toward his grandparents, who had thought he was dead for 3 years. His grandfather, an old man named Bong-su, dropped to his knees and hugged his grandson tightly. "We never stopped believing you were alive," Bong-su whispered. "We never stopped hoping." Ji-ho's grandmother, Ok-sun, cried as she held him. "You're so thin," she said. "We're going to take care of you now. You're safe." Dr. Kyung-soo had set up special medical facilities just for the rescued children. His teams worked carefully to help kids who had been hurt by Vextar experiments and poor treatment. "The good news," he told the families, "is that children heal quickly. Physically, most of them will be completely healthy within a few months. Emotionally, it may take longer, but we have the best counselors in human space working with them." Minji, the girl who had helped Ji-ho keep the other children calm during their imprisonment, was reunited with her parents at the Seoul Medical Center. Her father, a factory worker named Dong-hyun, couldn't stop crying when he saw his daughter. "I thought I had lost you forever," he said, holding her close. "I knew you would come for us," Minji replied. "Ji-ho always told us that humans never give up on their children." But the most important moment came when the rescued children were brought before the Galactic Council. This was a meeting of representatives from every major species in known space. They had gathered to hear what humanity had to say about the Vextar situation. Captain Dong-woo, the man who had first discovered the children and sent the message that started everything, stood before the council with Ji-ho and several other rescued children beside him. The scars from his battle with the Vextar were still visible on his face, but his voice was strong and clear as he addressed the aliens who had gathered to hear humanity's message. "Honored representatives," Dong-woo began, "you asked us to explain why humanity responded so strongly to the Vextar Empire's actions. You want to understand what makes humans different from other species." He gestured to the children standing beside him. "The answer is simple. These are our children. They represent our future, our hope, and everything we care about. When someone threatens our children, they threaten the very heart of what makes us human." The alien representatives listened carefully. Some of them had children of their own, but none of their species had ever responded to a threat the way humans had. Ji-ho stepped forward. Even though he was only 8 years old, he spoke clearly and bravely. "The Vextar told us that no one would come for us. They said we were worthless and that our families had forgotten about us, but they were wrong." The council chamber was completely silent as the small boy continued speaking. "Humans came for us because that's what humans do. They protect their children no matter what, even if it means fighting the strongest empire in the galaxy." Dong-woo took control again. "You want to know what makes humans different? We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We don't have the best technology or the largest armies. But we have something that you apparently don't understand." He paused and looked at each alien representative. "We have love. When our children are threatened, we don't calculate the odds or worry about the cost. We don't negotiate or make deals. We come for them, all of us. Every human who can fight, every human who can help, every human who ever lived believing that the future should be safe for the next generation. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They were beginning to understand why the humans had been so successful against the Vextar. The Vextar Empire made a simple mistake, Dongwu continued. They thought they were fighting human soldiers. They thought they were fighting human ships and human weapons. But they weren't fighting any of those things. He put his hand on Jiho's shoulder. They were fighting human parents. They were fighting human brothers and sisters. They were fighting every human who ever looked at a child and promised to keep them safe. And that's a fight they could never win. The representative from the Altarian Republic, a species known for their logical thinking, raised a tentacle to speak. Captain Dongwu, your actions have eliminated an entire empire. Millions of Vextar are now under human control. Was this proportional to the crime? Dongwu's expression became cold. Representative Velkron, let me ask you a question. If someone kidnapped Altarian children, experimented on them, and used them as slaves, what would your people do? Velkron was quiet for a moment. We would file a formal complaint with the Galactic Council. We would seek diplomatic solutions. And while you were filing complaints and seeking diplomatic solutions, your children would continue to suffer, Dongwu replied. Humans don't work that way. We go straight to the source of the problem and eliminate it. Dr. Kyung-soo stepped forward to address the council. We've analyzed Vextar technology and records. They have been kidnapping children from dozens of species for decades, not just humans. Your diplomatic solutions haven't worked because you never made the Vextar afraid to continue their crimes. The alien representatives began talking among themselves. They were realizing that the Vextar had been a threat to all their children, not just human children. General Wu Jin took his turn to speak. The Vextar Empire no longer exists as a threat to anyone's children, but this is not just about the Vextar. This is a message to every species in the galaxy. He looked directly at each alien representative. Humans are peaceful. We prefer trade and diplomacy. We want to be friends with all species. But if you threaten our children, you will learn what we're really capable of. The council chamber was silent again. We're establishing something called the Children's Shield Protocol, Dr. Kyung-soo announced. It's a galaxy-wide monitoring system that will watch for any threats to children of any species. The motto of this system was suggested by Jiho himself. Jiho stepped forward again and spoke in a clear voice that carried throughout the chamber. Some lines should never be crossed. The Galactic Council voted unanimously to support the Children's Shield Protocol. Every species agreed to help monitor and protect children throughout the galaxy. As the meeting ended, the alien representatives watched the human delegation leave. The children walked alongside the adults, safe and protected. The Zephyrian representative turned to her colleague. I'm beginning to understand why the humans were so successful. They weren't fighting for territory or resources. What were they fighting for? Asked the Kaldorian ambassador. Love, she replied. They were fighting for love. And love makes them dangerous in ways we never imagined. Back on Earth, Jiho sat in his grandparents' garden, playing with toys he hadn't seen in 3 years. His father Sang-woo watched from the window, still amazed that his son was home and safe. The news reports were calling it the shortest war in galactic history. But Sang-woo knew it wasn't really a war. It was a rescue mission. The largest, most determined rescue mission ever attempted. His communication device chimed with a message from Captain Dongwu. The last of the children have been returned to their families. The Vextar survivors are being relocated to a single world under human protection. It's over. Sang-woo looked out at his son, who was laughing as he played. It was a sound he thought he would never hear again. He typed back a simple response. Thank you. But he knew that thanks weren't necessary. Dongwu, like every other human involved in the rescue, had done what any human would do. They had brought the children home. Across the galaxy, other species were learning a new truth about humanity. Humans might look soft and peaceful most of the time. They might prefer talking to fighting. But when their children were threatened, they became something much more dangerous. They became protectors. And there was nothing in the universe more dangerous than a species that would fight to the death to protect its young. The Vextar had learned this lesson too late, but the galaxy would remember it forever. The human fleet arrived at the mining planet like a storm of metal and fury. Admiral Boram stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as thousands of human ships took positions around the world where their children were being held. All units, this is Admiral Boram, she announced on the fleet communication channel. Today we show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens human children. Fight with honor, fight with courage, and bring our kids home. The Vextar defensive fleet was waiting for them. Commander Thekris had called for reinforcements, and nearly 500 Vextar warships surrounded the planet. It should have been enough to stop any attack, but the Vextar had never fought humans who were protecting their young. The battle began when Yunji's fighter squadron dove toward the planet's surface. Her new ship moved faster than anything the Vextar had ever seen, thanks to Dr. Kyungsu's engine improvements. All fighters, follow me, Yunji called over the radio. Clear a path for the rescue teams. The Vextar ships opened fire with their energy weapons. The space around the planet lit up with deadly beams of light. But the human pilots didn't try to avoid the fire. They flew straight through it, losing ships but never slowing down. When fighter pilot Yunwoo's ship was hit and started burning, he didn't eject. Instead, he aimed his damaged fighter at a Vextar destroyer and rammed it at full speed. The explosion was so powerful it damaged 2 other Vextar ships. They're using their ships as weapons again, reported a Vextar captain. These humans fight like they don't care about dying. Admiral Boram's heavy cruisers engaged the main Vextar fleet. The new plasma cannons that Dr. Kyungsu had designed tore through Vextar shields like they were made of paper. Ships that had been invincible for decades were being destroyed by human technology, designed specifically to kill them. But the real battle was happening on the planet's surface. Sangwoo's rescue team had landed near the mining facility, along with 200 other Special Forces soldiers. Their mission was simple: get the children out alive. Remember, Sangwoo told his team as they moved toward the facility, the kids are scared and they don't know us. Move slowly, speak calmly, and let them know we're here to take them home. Inside the facility, Jiho could hear the sounds of battle getting closer. The Vextar guards were running around in panic, trying to figure out what to do with the children. They're coming for us, Jiho whispered to the other kids. I can hear human weapons outside. We're going to be okay. But Commander Thekris had other plans. He gathered his remaining guards around the children's cages. If the humans break through, we use the children as shields, he ordered. They won't risk hurting their own young. It was exactly the wrong strategy to use against humans. Sangwoo and his team reached the facility's outer walls. Using their new equipment, they could see through the walls and locate exactly where the children were being held. What they saw made them angry beyond words. The children were thin and scared. Some had bandages from medical experiments. Others looked sick from poor food and bad conditions. But they were alive, and that was what mattered. I can see my son, Sangwoo whispered into his radio. Jiho was in the largest cage with about 20 other kids. The Vextar guards are positioned around them. General Wu Jin's voice came back over the radio. Can you get them out safely? Yes, sir, Sangwoo replied. But we're going to have to go through the guards to do it. Then go through the guards. Sangwoo's team moved like ghosts through the facility. Years of Special Forces training had taught them how to move silently and strike without warning. The Vextar guards never saw them coming. The first guard was taken down quietly. Then the second. One by one, Sangwoo's soldiers eliminated the Vextar guards without making a sound. But there were too many guards around the children's area to take them all silently. We're going to have to go loud, Sangwoo told his team. When we do, move fast. The kids are going to be scared. They attacked at exactly the same moment. Sangwoo and his soldiers burst into the room where the children were held. The Vextar guards tried to use the children as shields, just as Thekris had ordered. It didn't work. Human soldiers are trained to be precise. Every shot they fired hit exactly where they wanted it to hit. The Vextar guards fell one by one, and not a single child was harmed. Commander Thekris himself tried to grab Jiho to use as a human shield. Sangwoo saw him reaching for his son and moved faster than he had ever moved in his life. The fight between Sangwoo and Thekris lasted only seconds. The Vextar commander was bigger and stronger, but Sangwoo was fighting for his child. When it was over, Thekris lay on the floor and Sang-woo was holding his son for the first time in 3 years. "Daddy?" Jiho whispered, not believing what he was seeing. "I'm here, son," Sang-woo said, tears running down his face. "I'm here and I'm taking you home." All around the room, human soldiers were opening cages and helping children to safety. The kids were scared at first, but when they saw that these new people wore human uniforms and spoke human languages, they started to cry with relief. "Are you really here to save us?" asked Minji, the 12-year-old girl who had helped Jiho keep the other children calm. "Yes," said Sergeant Haewon, kneeling down to look the girl in the eyes. "We're taking all of you home to your families." Outside the facility, the space battle was ending. The Vextar fleet had been completely destroyed. Human ships controlled the space around the planet, and more rescue teams were landing to search for other facilities where children might be held. Dr. Kyung-soo had been right about the new weapons. The Vextar technology that had made them feared throughout the galaxy was useless against human determination and human engineering. Pilot Yoonji landed her fighter near the mining facility. She had survived the battle, but her ship was damaged and several of her squadron members had died in the fighting. Still, when she saw the human children being carried to safety, she knew the sacrifice had been worth it. "Control, this is Yoonji," she reported. "The children are secure. Repeat, all children are secure and being evacuated." Admiral Boram received the message on her flagship. Around her, the bridge crew cheered. They had done what they came to do, but the mission wasn't over yet. Intelligence reports showed that there were other Vextar facilities throughout their empire. More human children might be held prisoner on other worlds. "All ships," Boram announced to the fleet, "prepare to move to the next target. We're not going home until every human child is free." The rescue ships carrying the children headed back to human space. Inside the medical bay of the transport ship, Jiho sat next to his father while doctors checked him for injuries. "Dad," Jiho said quietly, "how did you find us?" Sang-woo smiled at his son. "Captain Dong-woo and his crew discovered what the Vextar were doing to you. They sent a message to every human in the galaxy, and when humans heard that our children were in danger, we all came to bring you home." Jiho looked around at the other children who were being treated by the doctors. "All these people came just for us?" "Not just for you," Sang-woo explained. "They came because you're human children and we protect our own. No matter what." Outside the ship's windows, the human fleet was already moving toward the next Vextar world. The war was not over, it was just beginning. And across the galaxy, other alien species watched in amazement and fear as humanity showed them what happened when someone threatened human children. The Vextar Empire was about to learn that some mistakes cannot be forgiven. The human response began 72 hours after Captain Dong-woo's message. What the Vextar Empire saw coming toward their space was not just a military fleet, it was something they had never seen before. Every human ship that could fly was coming. Military warships flew alongside converted passenger ships with weapons welded to their sides. Mining vessels carried soldiers instead of ore. Even medical ships had been armed and were coming to help rescue the children. Dr. Kyung-soo watched from his laboratory as the new weapons were loaded onto the ships. His team had worked without sleep to create technology specifically designed to fight the Vextar. "The plasma torpedoes will go right through their shields," he explained to Admiral Boram. "Their technology is designed to stop normal human weapons, but they've never seen anything like this." "What about the rescue equipment?" Boram asked. Engineer Minho stepped forward. "Every ship has rescue pods. They're small, fast, and can protect children even in hostile environments. If a child is injured, the pod will provide medical care automatically." Pilot Yoonji was making final checks on her fighter. Her squadron was the best in the human fleet. But today they had a different mission than usual. Today they weren't just fighting to win, they were fighting to protect the innocent. "Remember," she told her pilots over the radio, "our job is to clear the way for the rescue teams. Every Vextar ship we destroy means those children are one step closer to safety." On Earth, Sang-woo was preparing for his own part in the mission. He would lead a special team of soldiers whose only job was to find and rescue the children. These men and women had all volunteered after hearing about the captured kids. "We go in fast and quiet," Sang-woo told his team. "Our priority is the children. Everything else comes second. If you see a Vextar hurting a child, you know what to do." His soldiers nodded. They all understood. This wasn't just a military operation. This was personal. The Vextar Empire watched the approaching human fleet with growing worry. High Commander Vrektor called an emergency meeting of his war council. "How many ships are they bringing?" he demanded. "Our scouts report over 3,000 vessels," replied his intelligence officer. "But sir, many of them appear to be civilian ships." Vrektor laughed. "Civilian ships? The humans are so desperate they're sending merchant vessels to fight us? This will be easier than I thought." But Commander Thekris, who had seen the humans at the mining facility, was not laughing. "Sir, I recommend we move the human children to the most secure location possible. Something tells me the humans are more dangerous than we realize." "The children stay where they are," Rektor ordered. "They're our insurance policy. If the humans attack, we'll threaten to hurt the children. That will make them surrender quickly." This was exactly the wrong thing to say. Unknown to the Vextar, human intelligence had been listening to their communications. When General Wu Jin heard that they planned to use the children as shields, his response was swift. "All units," he broadcast to the human fleet. "They're threatening to hurt the children if we attack. That changes nothing. We find those kids and we bring them home. Anyone who stands in our way gets destroyed." The first battle happened at the edge of Vextar space. A Vextar patrol fleet met the advancing human ships, expecting an easy victory. They had better technology and more powerful weapons. What they didn't expect was how the humans fought. When Yunji's fighter was hit and damaged, she didn't retreat. Instead, she aimed her crippled ship at the largest Vextar vessel and used it as a missile. The explosion destroyed both ships, but it opened a gap for the other human fighters to get through. When the human warship Thunder was losing a battle against two Vextar cruisers, Captain Yujin made a decision that shocked the enemy. He rammed his ship into one of the cruisers at full speed, destroying both ships but allowing the rest of his fleet to advance. The Vextar had never seen anything like it. Most species fought to win territory or resources, but the humans were fighting like every battle was their last battle. They fought like they didn't care if they lived or died as long as they completed their mission. "They're insane," reported one Vextar captain to his commanders. "They're using their own ships as weapons." But the humans weren't insane. They were something much more dangerous. They were parents, siblings, friends, and neighbors of the children who had been taken. Every human in that fleet knew that somewhere in Vextar space human children were suffering, and they would do anything to stop it. Dr. Kyungsu's new weapons proved devastatingly effective. The Vextar shields, which had protected them for centuries, were useless against the new human plasma technology. Human ships that should have been outmatched were winning battles against superior Vextar vessels. As the human fleet pushed deeper into Vextar space, something unexpected happened. Other alien species began to watch the battle. Some had been victims of Vextar aggression themselves. They had never seen anyone fight the Vextar with such determination. On the planet Kepler-7, the Zephyrian Council received reports of the human advance. "The humans are actually winning," said Counselor Veltar. "No one has ever beaten the Vextar in open battle." "What makes the humans so different?" asked another counselor. "The Vextar took their children," Veltar replied. Apparently that was a mistake. Back at the mining facility where the children were held, Jiho could hear explosions in the distance. The sounds were getting closer. The Vextar guards were nervous and kept looking at the sky. "Something big is happening," he whispered to Minji. "I think someone is coming to help us." Commander Thekris received orders to prepare to move the children again. But this time there was nowhere to run. Human ships were attacking Vextar positions throughout the Empire. "Sir," reported his communications officer, "we're receiving a message from the human fleet. It's addressed specifically to you." Thekris listened to the message. It was from someone called General Wu Jin. "Commander Thekris," the human voice said calmly, "you are holding human children prisoner. You have 1 hour to release them unharmed and surrender yourself for war crimes. If you refuse, we will come and take them, and we will show you what happens to people who hurt our kids." Thekris tried to respond with threats of his own. "If you attack, we will kill the children." The human response came immediately. "Then you will die screaming. 1 hour." For the first time in his military career, Commander Thekris felt real fear. There was something in the human's voice that told him this was not a bluff. These humans would fight through anything to reach their children. He looked at his guards. They were scared too. They had heard the reports from the battles. Human ships were destroying Vextar fleets with impossible determination. Human soldiers were fighting like demons when they thought children were in danger. "Sir," said one of his officers, "maybe we should consider surrendering. The humans are offering to accept our surrender if we release the children." Thecris thought about it. But High Commander Rector's orders were clear. Use the children as shields. Make the humans back down. Prepare the children for transport, he ordered. If the humans want them, they'll have to go through us. It was the last mistake he would ever make. In space above the planet, Sangwoo's transport ship approached the mining facility. Around him sat the most dangerous rescue team ever assembled. These were soldiers who had children of their own. Soldiers who understood what it meant to protect the innocent. "Remember," Sangwoo said as they prepared to land, "we're not just saving those kids. We're sending a message to the entire galaxy. Touch human children and this is what happens to you." The final battle was about to begin. The message from Captain Dongwu reached Admiral Boram first. She was drinking her morning coffee on the bridge of the human fleet's biggest warship when her communication officer handed her the emergency report. Boram read it once. Then she read it again. Her coffee cup fell from her hands and crashed to the floor. "All ships," she said into her communicator, her voice deadly calm. "Emergency meeting in 1 hour. Captains only. Priority Alpha." The same message reached Dr. Kyung-soo at the Terran Research Center. He was working late in his laboratory when his computer started flashing red. He had been developing new weapons technology for years, but he had never expected to need it for something like this. He immediately called his entire team. "Drop everything you're working on," he told them. "We have a new project, and this one is personal." But the person who received the message with the most anger was General Wu Jin. He was at home, looking at pictures of his daughter who had been killed by alien raiders 3 years ago. When he read about the human children in cages, something broke inside him. He made one phone call. "This is General Wu Jin. Activate all Special Forces units. Full mobilization. Every soldier, every ship, every weapon we have. We're going to war. On the planet where the children were held, things were getting worse." Commander Thecris was angry that humans had discovered their operation. He decided to move the children to different locations before more humans could find them. In the largest cage, 8-year-old Jiho tried to keep the other children calm. He had been there the longest and had become their leader. The older children looked to him for hope, and the younger ones held his hand when they were scared. "They're moving us somewhere else," Jiho whispered to the others. "But that might be good. It means the people who found us are causing trouble for these monsters." A 12-year-old girl named Minji nodded. "My father always said that humans never give up when it comes to protecting children. Maybe help is coming." The Vextar guards came to their cage. "Move quickly," one of them hissed. "You're going to a new facility. Try to run and we'll hurt you." As they were being moved, Jiho managed to drop a small piece of metal that had his name scratched into it. He hoped that if humans came looking, they would find it and know that human children had been there. Back in human space, the response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Within 6 hours of Dongwu's message, every human military base was active. Soldiers who had been retired came back to duty. Civilian ships were being converted into warships. Admiral Boram stood in front of a holographic display showing the entire human fleet. There were more ships gathering than had ever been assembled in human history. "We're not just going to rescue those children," she told her captains. "We're going to make sure this never happens again. The Vextar Empire needs to learn what happens when you hurt human kids." Dr. Kyung-soo had been working for 18 hours straight. His team had developed new weapons that could break through Vextar energy shields. They had also created special rescue pods designed to extract children from dangerous situations. "These new plasma cannons will cut through their ship armor like paper," he explained to the engineers. "And these rescue pods have medical equipment inside to help injured children immediately." Engineer Minho had been working on the rescue pods. "I've tested them 100 times, he said. "They can work in any environment. Even if the children are in vacuum or toxic atmosphere, these pods will keep them safe." Pilot Yunji was preparing her fighter squadron. She had handpicked the best pilots in the human fleet. "We're not just fighting for victory," she told her pilots. "We're fighting for every child who can't fight for themselves. Show them what human pilots can do when they're really angry." The news about the children spread through human colonies like fire. On every human world, people demanded action. Parents held their own children closer and demanded that their governments do something. On New Terra, a crowd of 10,000 people gathered outside the government building. they chanted, "Bring our children home." On Mars Colony, factory workers stopped production and started making weapons and supplies for the military. On Luna Station, even the children themselves raised money to help with the rescue mission. But the most important response came from a small apartment on Earth. Sang-woo sat at his kitchen table, staring at a picture of his son Jiho. He had thought his boy was dead, killed in the same raid that took his wife. Now he knew Jiho was alive but trapped and suffering. Sang-woo had been a Special Forces soldier before his family was attacked. After losing his wife and thinking he had lost his son, he became a civilian and tried to live quietly. But now everything had changed. He went to his closet and pulled out his old military equipment. His weapons, his armor, his tactical gear. He hadn't worn them in 3 years, but they still fit perfectly. His old commander called him. "Sang-woo, I know about your son. Do you want to be part of the rescue mission?" "I don't want to be part of it," Sang-woo replied. "I want to lead it." Meanwhile, the Vextar Empire was getting worried. Their spies reported that humans were mobilizing their entire military. But the Vextar leaders thought they could handle it. "Humans are emotional and weak," said High Commander Rector at their war council. "They will make mistakes because they're angry. We are superior in every way." Commander Thekris, who had seen the humans at the facility, was not so sure. Something felt different about them. They moved like hunters, not like the soft traders we usually deal with. "Nonsense," Rector replied. "Send our fleet to destroy their ships before they reach our territory. Show them that the Vextar Empire cannot be threatened." The Vextar sent a message to all human territories. It was meant to scare the humans into giving up. "Human weaklings," the message said. "Your young belong to us now. They will work until they die. Surrender your fleets or watch your children suffer even more. You cannot win against the might of the Vextar Empire." This message was broadcast on every human communication channel. Every human heard it. And instead of creating fear, it created something much more dangerous. It created fury. General Wu Jin stood before his assembled troops. These were the most dangerous soldiers humanity had ever produced. They had volunteered for this mission not for money or glory, but for something much more important. "They want to know what humans do when their children are threatened," Wu Jin said. "Let's show them." Captain Dongwu stared at the screen in front of him. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from space, but something was wrong. His ship, the New Soul, had been traveling through the system for 3 days now. They were supposed to be alone out here. "Captain," said Hyojin from her seat at the navigation controls, "I'm getting strange readings from the planet's surface. There's definitely something down there that shouldn't be." Dongwu trusted his navigator. Hyojin had been with him for 5 years, and she was never wrong about these things. He walked over to look at her screen. The numbers didn't make sense. There was technology on that planet, but it wasn't human technology. "Taeho," Dongwu called to his chief engineer. "Can you tell what kind of power source we're looking at?" Taeho's fingers moved quickly over his keyboard. After a few minutes, he looked up with a worried expression. "It's big, Captain. Whatever they're doing down there requires a lot of energy, more than a research station would need." Subin, who handled communications, turned around in her chair. "Captain, I'm not picking up any signals. No one is talking down there. That's strange for such a large operation." Dongwu made his decision. "We're going down to take a look. Prepare the shuttle." The shuttle ride to the planet's surface took 20 minutes. As they got closer, they could see the source of the energy readings. It was a massive mining facility built into the side of a mountain. The building was dark gray and looked like it had been there for years. "I don't like this," Hyojin whispered as they landed behind some rocks, out of sight from the facility. They put on their equipment and walked carefully toward the building. The air was thin and they needed their breathing masks. Dongwu carried a scanner that would tell them what kind of life forms were inside. As they got closer, Dongwu's scanner started beeping. "There are definitely people inside," he said quietly. "A lot of them." They found a small window on the side of the building. Taeho boosted Dongwu up so he could look inside. What he saw made his blood turn cold. There were dozens of cages inside the building. Each cage held a human child. The children looked thin and scared. Some were crying. Others just sat quietly, staring at nothing. They were all wearing dirty clothes that looked like prison uniforms. "What do you see?" Hyojin asked from below. Dongwu couldn't speak for a moment. Then he whispered, "Human children. They're keeping human children in cages." He helped Taeho climb up to see. His engineer's face went white. Those kids can't be more than 10 or 12 years old. What are they doing to them? Subin looked next. When she came down, there were tears in her eyes. We have to help them, she said. They moved around to find another window. This one showed them more of the facility. The children were being forced to work with dangerous mining equipment. Some of them had bandages on their arms and faces. In the corner, Dongwoo could see what looked like a medical laboratory. They're experimenting on them, he said with anger growing in his voice. Suddenly, they heard voices coming toward them. They quickly hid behind some equipment as 3 tall reptilian creatures walked past. These were Vextar, a species that humans had met before but never trusted. The Vextar were known for being cruel and caring only about profit. One of the Vextar was clearly in charge. He had scars on his face and wore a military uniform. The other 2 followed him and called him Commander Thekris. The new shipment of human young arrives tomorrow, Thekris said in his hissing voice. Make sure they understand the rules quickly. We can't afford to lose more workers. What about the experiments? Asked one of the other Vextar. Dr. Vekelon wants to test the new drug on the smallest ones first. Human children respond better to the chemicals than adults do. Dongwoo had heard enough. He signaled to his team to move back to their shuttle. They needed to document everything and get this information to the human authorities. As they were sneaking away, Hee-jin's foot hit a piece of metal. The sound echoed in the thin air. The Vextar guards heard it immediately. Intruders, Thekris shouted. Find them. The team ran toward their shuttle as fast as they could. Behind them, they could hear the Vextar shouting orders and starting up vehicles to chase them. They reached the shuttle just as energy blasts started hitting the ground around them. Taeho got the engine started while Subin and Hee-jin jumped inside. Dongwoo was the last one in. As the shuttle lifted off, more energy blasts hit their ship. One blast damaged their rear engine, making the shuttle shake violently. I can't avoid them much longer. Taeho shouted over the noise. Hee-jin was working frantically at her computer. I'm downloading everything I can from their facility. If we can get this information out, people will know what's happening here. Another blast hit their shuttle. This one was stronger and hit near where Hee-jin was sitting. She cried out in pain as sparks flew from her control panel. Hee-jin, Subin reached over to help her friend. Hee-jin's arm was burned badly, but she was still alive. I got it, Hee-jin said weakly, holding up a data device. All the evidence is here. Their computer systems, the locations of other facilities, everything. They made it back to the New Seoul, but just barely. As soon as they were safe, Dongwoo went to the communication room. He had a message to send, and it needed to reach every human in the galaxy. He sat down at the communication console and began typing. His hands shook with anger as he wrote, Priority Alpha Emergency. Human children enslaved by Vextar Empire. Coordinates attached. Evidence attached. They are experimenting on our kids. They are using them as slave labor. This is not a request for help. This is a warning. Remember what we are when someone threatens our children. He sent the message on all human military channels, all government channels, and all emergency channels. Within minutes, the message would reach every human colony, every human ship, and every human military base in known space. Dongwoo looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, people would receive his message. And when they did, the Vextar Empire would learn something about humans that they should have known before they touched human children. Some mistakes cannot be forgiven. Some lines should never be crossed. The Vextar had just crossed the biggest line of all.